Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Moving Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, John Ruby, and my wonderful co-host is right here next to me.
Hey, Corbin Coyle. Hey, everybody.
Just so people know, Corbin's like 4 minutes from where I live, and he keeps moving closer. So I just want people to know that it is a little creepy, but also I also appreciate it.
Hello,
So,
John. I'm right next
oh
door.
my God. So we are still doing this over Zoom, but he's right around I can almost see him with the telescope. So what I wanted to talk about, first of all, your laugh is bringing me joy, Corbin, but I wanted to just talk about this topic of what brings us joy. I think it's like a really like something I was thinking about last night of like, I kind of need more joy in my life. There's a lot of life happening. There's a lot of world happening. And I was kind of thinking, I don't know, maybe you can think about what brings you joy, but I definitely realize like making people laugh, like making my dad or my mom or my wife or you, like, I think that always brings me joy when that happens. And then the other thing I was enjoying, my son is really into Encanto. And I've seen the first half of that movie like 12 times. I haven't seen the second. Actually haven't even seen the end of it. I know something that happens, which I don't want to spoil
pieces
for people.
of it. That's great.
Not pieces, like the first half. I've
Just
seen the first half over and over. But on the drive to school today, he always says, let's talk about Minecraft. We always talk about Minecraft. But today I put on the soundtrack to Encanto, and it was so much fun because he like dances to it. And oh my gosh, it brought me so much joy. Yeah. And so when he gets in like a dance mode, last night he did like a 10-minute dance to Encanto for Annie and I, and we like didn't move because we didn't want it to stop. He was doing all the moves, he's just dancing around the house, like he's putting his arms up like, and we're like, are you under pressure? He's like, yeah, pressure, it brought me so much joy that we didn't want it to stop. So I don't know. I stuff like that warms my heart. So
that's so great. It's gonna be a hard one to beat. That's so cute. Yeah, for me, my mom, every year she makes these like snowball cookies. Like, I don't know when this tradition started, but every year during the holidays, like I like get super excited because she just gives me a tin of them. She's just like stacked to the brim. And I don't know when this tradition started or like what, but like she just like gives me and my sister it, and like we just have like she just spends like way too long like good, and she's like, your cookies are ready. I'm like, I didn't even ask for them. Like, this is so great. And that just brings me like a big smile every year because it's just a nice thing to have like a tradition like that, and just being able to like keep, I don't know, every year like that I will always think of her because of that. And that's such a like beautiful thing to have in my life, and I'm really, really grateful for it.
I love that. Are you gonna learn how to make them, Corbin?
Oh no, God no.
That's part of the tradition. Corbin doesn't learn how to make them.
I don't have to make them. That's the whole point.
It does make food better when you don't have to make it.
It does.
Well, speaking of the topic of joy, our guest today brings me so much joy. Whenever I get to work with her, audition with her, talk about her or talk with her, we have the very talented commercial and print casting director, Katie Taylor, here with us. Hi, Katie.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, we're so happy that you're here. On that topic, anything that brings you joy off the top of your head?
Oh, my children, of course, for sure. Just their uniqueness in watching that kind of flourish in a way that's so completely unbridled and unrelated to anything I could have ever imparted to them. You know what I mean? Like It really, watching them grow really gives you proof that there is such a thing as nature. Like, they come out of the womb a certain way. It's just, like, they're just, every human is its own little walking piece of art, you know what I mean? And what they love and what they choose and how they express themselves and how they react to music, like you said. I mean, that's the epitome of what I think the juice of life, you know what I mean, is to watch that unfold.
Totally. And I love, Katie, I'm sure you've had this where your kids learn, for a while, your kids only learn stuff when you're around. And then they start to learn stuff when you're not around. And that's really interesting. Like, like Quill yesterday, he was like, well, yeah, when you're like skiing, you get momentum. I'm like, momentum. Good job, buddy. Nice. Like, that's a good, like, I don't think I've used that word. I mean, maybe I have, but the point is like, he used momentum. And I was like, so I think it's also interesting, like you're saying, Katie, when they're at school or when they're watching stuff and they're absorbing things that like, you're like, I didn't teach you that, but you learned that from the world, so
he starts cursing and you're like, that's from dad.
that's when I stubbed my toe.
Also,
W-
they choose to pick up, you know,
Mm.
like you said, like
yes.
that was interesting to him.
Yes. I think that's
Yeah.
like, yeah. Yeah. What are they going to follow? And I mean, that's my one final thing on this is like with kids for me, one of the things I've always talked to Annie about is like, whatever his passion is, it's like, I want to push that, which I know makes sense, but it's like, I think you can sneak in like learning how to read by like getting him all those books, like get him 100 books on dinosaurs.
Mhm.
You know, I buy these magazines on Minecraft because he loves it. And I'm just like, yeah, as long as he's engaged and the engagement. I read a great thing about teachers, which was talking about it's not about experience and length of time teaching. It's about engagement.
Mm.
And I think that is so true. You know, you can have someone, and I'm a teacher, so I can speak to this. When my students are engaged, it's when I'm feeling the most productive with them. I think they're feeling the most productive. But the idea that, I mean, experience can be something, but like the engagement of your students, I think that's really what makes a great teacher,
Mhm.
Absolutely.
right? I want to transition to Katie, you and your world, and what I really want to talk about to start with is casting. And how'd you get into casting? What's the
Yeah,
what's the
so curious.
backstory?
Yeah, so I have a really random path into casting. I grew up in LA, one of the rare, you know, birds
Yeah,
still here.
yeah, yes.
And my parents were both directors. They're both from England. They moved here when they were, you know, in their 20s, and became directors in various firms. My dad was a music video director in the 80s, if you can imagine.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, he directed the Go-Go's vacation video. They're
Sweet.
and he directed Maneater by
Oh
Hall
yeah.
Oates.
Yeah.
The Black Panther in it.
Yeah. Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so you know, he was a big MTV guy, and so I didn't ever really gravitate towards the entertainment industry because my parents worked in that.
Interesting.
Mhm.
You know, as a kid, you're like, that's the industry that takes my parents away from me. I'm not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I went into teaching. I was totally into
Oh.
children. I got a lot of joy from children. So
Mhm.
I became a preschool teacher.
Oh my
And
gosh.
on my path to that, before I decided upon preschool teaching specifically, I briefly entertained becoming an anthropologist because I find people so interesting. I just find culture interesting. I find music and art interesting, and anthropology really get to see so many different cultures and choices of humanity. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And you know, as the deeper I got into it, the more I realized I was like, wow, I'd have to like do field work in, you know, I might get malaria.
I don't want
Like,
malaria.
you know, you're reading all these stories about like people, you know, packing their infants with them on their fieldwork trip and everything getting, I'm like, okay, maybe not teaching would be better.
Maybe preschool.
Yeah, I can save this country for that, right?
Yeah.
And so um I went into, you know, teaching. And when I was a kid, one of the hobbies I had was gymnastics. You know, everyone has a sport, right?
Mhm.
And specifically with gymnastics, once you're like 12, if you haven't made it to a certain level, like it just becomes recreational, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And at 12, obviously, you know, you hit also junior high and that kind of stuff. So I was like, that's when I quit. And when I got serious.
You're like, I'm good. I'm good.
And so when I was teaching preschool, I had a lot of like, you know, I was with kids all day.
Mhm.
So recreationally, I really needed to find, you know, adult interaction and ways to engage with socially with other adults. And so I started doing adult gymnastics classes again. They had like open gym nights at, you know, LA Valley College and LA School of Gymnastics and whatever it was. And I still really had my skills. I could still do back handsprings and trampoline and all sorts of stuff. So I was like, you know, perfect. This is a way I can totally work out and make friends and have a good time. And everyone at those places, they were all in the stunt industry. And I was like, well, I mean, I kind of heard about this, but I don't know. I didn't really think about it like this. Like they were all not only working out as gymnasts, but then they were going and like doing trapeze, and they were going and doing, you know, trampoline. And then like for fun, they would do things like rappel off parking structures in the middle of the night. You know what I mean? Like they were just these bold, energetic, enthusiastic, you know, all around athletes. It was like they were martial artists and they were experts at high falls, and they would know all these stunt coordinators who had these huge backyards full of like high fall towers and circus apparatuses and ratchets and air rams and like all the gadgets they use in the movie industry where they would like train and practice. And so I started kind of tagging along, and I was like the young new kid, I was like 20, 21, something like that. And the more I got into it, I was like, you know what, this preschool thing, can take a back seat. Like, I want to be a stunt woman. Like, this is amazing. So like, cool. I had no idea that you could make a living in movies, like doing flips on a trampoline or pretending to get knocked over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Like the places I saw these people working, I was like, I can do that. You got paid how much? What?
Yeah.
Sign me up for this, and I started training in trampoline and in trapeze, and I went to the motion picture stunt driving clinic and got certified in precision driving, and I went full force into becoming a stunt woman. And I did a couple things here and there, commercial work and a couple movies and TV shows just here and there. Like, it was almost like extra work, but with like something dangerous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna walk by, but there's gonna be like a massive explosion. So here's what I need you to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever it was, you know what I mean? Or it was like,
cool.
I just need you to do a backflip on this trampoline. Like that. I'm like, oh, easy. You know what I mean? I just need you to stand in this vintage gown on a lift. You're gonna be strapped in, but you're gonna be like 25 feet in the air, and I need you to act like a ghost. You know what I mean? So it was like awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great industry, but it was very different than acting because you had to hustle sets. Like, you literally had to like go to the film office and find out where movies were shooting, see if there was a stunt coordinator on the set anywhere. Then you would have to literally drive to that set, which could be in like, Timbuktu, who knows, San Diego, wherever, and literally show up and find the coordinator and introduce yourself and give them your headshot and say you're in the book and you're in a blah, 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 and you specialize in this and whatever, with the hopes that maybe on their next project, or if something comes up that you fit, they will call you. It's not so much, there's no auditioning. It's completely different. It's based on people vouching for you, knowing your training level, seeing you training in so-and-so's backyard. I've seen her do air ramps. She can totally pull this off, And
Interesting.
yeah, it was very different. And, just what happened was, obviously, as you can imagine, being 22 years old, I got injured a lot, like not on set. I never,
really?
Safe, but messing around, I like swinging on a rope at the beach upside down by my feet and coming off in the sand, I roll my ankle, land uneven, you're not stable enough, you roll your ankle. And then, after that healed, while protecting and babying that injured ankle, I injured the other one. So I was like, literally hobbled, for like a year.
Yeah.
And just by the stroke of luck, I ran into a casting assistant that I had known while just talking in the lobbies, as we do, and was like, oh my God, no wonder I haven't seen you. Look at you on crutches. Like, and I'm an idiot. I did this and I did that. And they were like, you know what? We have this big, Mountain Dew job coming up where we need cowboys and we need BMXers and we need, like, I know all these people. Because none of these people have agents. It's not marketed that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's through word of mouth and through reliability. And so I was like, yeah, I can totally hook you up on the best of all of those. Yep. And I took just a freelance one-time deal on the phone research. Like, it was like for like Mountain Dew or something. I can't even remember, but like I killed it.
Yes.
Like, holy, where did you find these people?
Yeah.
They were all amazing. What I mean? They were all like, and they were people they'd never seen before. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Great new faces.
They just see the same people, like, who has agents and here all of a sudden this rando comes in and gives them this like cachet of like crazy out of control professionals that no one's ever seen before. They were like, who is this person?
Mm-hmm.
And so they took a chance and they hired me on another job. Luckily, they were looking for artists. Both my parents had like masters in fine art. They knew all of the fine art, like underground best artists in LA.
Yep.
It was for like a financial services ad, double scale, like big time thing. Same thing happened. They were like, who
is this person?
This unicorn. So I got like a permanent spot at this place doing real people casting. And they trained me what to look for, what made somebody commercial. You know what I mean, John? Like people that aren't, the short, fat, bald guy who's 65 can be so commercial and perfect. There's just something about, there's the symmetry, the friendliness, the unique features, like the attractive, but not too attractive that they're intimidating, but they're still approachable, but they're still aspirational. But you know what I mean? Like there's this magic about commercials. And she took me around with her. You may remember this person. Her name was Tony Cervantes.
Of course I remember Tony.
She trained me on real people casting, where she took me out with her to the parking lot of Home Depot, to Melrose, to the pier, to the 3rd Street Promenade, just out in public with a video camera and a Polaroid and a stack of size cards and a stapler and you remember this, John?
Of course.
Boots on the ground.
100 boots on the ground.
She would scan the crowd and she would show me like this person, that person. And then it was my job to just go up to them. Hi, we're casting for Taco Bell. Hi, we're casting for Fidelity.
Okay, well, wait, Katie, hold this spot, because what I want to give you a big compliment is, with all of this like success and kind of you're saying luck. Maybe you've noticed, Corbin, one of the great things about Katie is her energy. She's got, like, it's the end of a casting day. I'm running a casting with Katie and I'm like, I'm exhausted. She's like, how are we doing, John? How's it coming? I'm like, I'm ready to fall asleep. And so my point is, I think also with the stunts, with the arts, with what you're talking about, which I want to get back to, the real people, you've got great, almost like limitless energy, Katie. And I think that's one of the reasons you're so good at what you do, really, because that's a big part of it, right? Do you know what I'm saying? I'm sure you've heard that before.
You've got to have that first energy on the first person that you do on the last.
Yes. It's really impressive. It's really awesome. And you need that with kids too. Like you're talking about teaching, because they're draining.
Oh yeah, that's hard.
Where got the training for that. Yeah.
It's true.
The stamina and the tolerance.
I love it. So you're with Tony doing Real People. Great. And then did you work with Tony for a bit, or did you?
I did. I worked for Tony for maybe like 3 years.
Okay.
And people started kind of stealing me here and there. You know what I mean? Because they were like, I have this really hard one. We're looking for unicyclists, mountain unicyclists, or we're looking for, stuff that's just like really hard. And they knew that I was like a digger. You know what I mean? I was like, well, I'll find them. And then you talk to them. You're like, well, who else do you know? Do you know where they teach it? Well, who else teaches it? Who else is the pro? Oh, is he an expert? Has he been in the Olympics? Like you go and you dig and you find and you just like follow the tree. You know what I mean? Until you find everyone, that's close by that does that, because they all start leading to themselves, you know what I mean, after a while. And that's when you know you got it.
Where do you think this skill came from? Because like not everybody had, like you're even with your stunt, like going and traveling and going talk to these people, like that takes so much dedication and knowing who you are. Like how did you?
Well, that's just my mother. My mother was just a go-getter. She did everything. She's the one that sewed all the costumes in the school play, who then eventually was writing and directing the school play, and and like farming the students' parents, audience. They're like, oh, you know how to do lighting, like, hey.
So gets you in. Yes, yeah.
She was like, the school has no art program. That's it. I'm the art teacher. Like, you know what I mean? Like she was just that person. And her father was that person. You know what I mean? Her father was just like this, like, oh, you don't have that business? We're going to build that business. What do you mean you never done that before? Well, let's just try it anyway. So, it just kind of like you watch that and you watch the success in that and the gifts in that. And that if it doesn't work out, it's okay. You can turn that into something else or learn from that. And that becomes something of value in a different way than you thought in the initial process. You know what I mean?
Well, there's definitely, Katie, like with what you said, I was thinking of the the very first time I ran a casting session was a callback. Pretty sure it was for Pam Starks. And what happened was the person who was going to run it, Katie, like called in sick and they needed someone. And I was doing Polaroids. I was like doing all that. And I had trained for like an hour on the camera. And I was like, but I wanted to get into that. So they were like, someone, and I was like, me. So I went in there and I remember it was a callback. So all the clients are there, the director's there, and I couldn't get, something wasn't working. And it was mostly me wasn't working because I hadn't done enough, but I was like blaming it on the equipment because I had to stall for time. But the point was the opportunity came and then I finally got it working and the callback went great. And then I ended up starting to be a session director, but it was a lot of pressure. Katie's like hates hearing that story, but the point is it was an opportunity like what you're saying, but then you had to perform. And I think it's a very true for the entertainment business where, there is a little bit of luck when those opportunities come, but if for some reason, whether you don't have the like life skills that you brought to it and the people you knew or the network, you might not have gotten another opportunity, and I think it's a similar thing when I was working in casting was like, I had spent some time and I've been around it, but when that opportunity comes, whether it's for acting or writing or whatever those things are, you're going to hopefully get opportunities. Most people are, but then can you kind of get in there and hold on if you really want to?
That's definitely a really valid point, because had I been given an opportunity with a different department of, if like they were like, we need you to go and find factory workers or whatever it is, I would have failed and I probably wouldn't have gotten the same opportunity. So there definitely is an element of like luck meets opportunity.
For sure.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
you're not always that lucky. So
and then how long, and then so you worked for other people, and then when did you decide to kind of open your own shingle?
well, eventually, I think that I started working for a few other people, and Tony also started to get more employees, and I kind of figured, you know what? I also discovered that like when you own a company, you can hire an assistant and have them cover like 7 jobs, but only pay them for one, and then fill those 7 jobs for the assistant.
Yes.
And kind of once I found that out, I was like, I'm out of here doing all the work,
Yes.
Do this.
It's true. It's true.
Do this this is a sham.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and Corbin, maybe you know this. When you're a session director, like I've done for a long time, you can work in one room, but if you're a casting director, you could have 4 rooms going. So you have 4, you know what I mean? So it like you're saying, you can scale it. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
And back then it was different too, because it was, there was we weren't online back in that beginning at all. We were doing dubbing tapes.
Yep. That's true.
Doing Polaroids. It was very different. There was a lot more work involved. I was doing a lot of typing. We were typing logs.
Oh yeah. For people, listening that remember, Katie was the 3/4 inch tape, Corbin. Now it's all digital, but back in the day you had to hit this machine that would be like, and that meant it was recording because it was like, tape you kept, it was your backup. So it was like really loud because it was like really thin, and so like you knew when you were recording or not, because it was like that thing was making noise. So it wasn't all digital.
Well, I went back to struggling for a while actually because of that choice. I went back to doing freebies and some really low budget music videos, and I kind of was lucky enough to kind of get a little bit in with the print world, which kind of trickled into more commercials as well. I got to grow with a few companies that started out as like tiny one office production companies that are now like these huge, both ad agency and production merge, high tech, high end, what I mean, companies. So that's been really great, and I feel really lucky to have gotten to do that. And it's kind of just a matter of saying yes to everything. You know what I mean? It's like, you need casting? Yes. You have no money? Fine.
We'll figure it out.
I want to do this, and that was what I did in the beginning. And I had to take side jobs working as like, a hostess in the hotel. And, you kind of go back to the bottom when you make that choice. It's like you become an extra.
Well, yeah, because you're building up those relationships, Katie.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you're kind of resetting a bit because you had relationships in a different position, right?
Totally. So you kind of have to push through that. And it took me like another 3 years, I think, to like really build enough of like where I could stop taking some of that side work, those like, because there were still companies like Joe Blake, that would he's like, can you go fly out to the Toyota factory and put all these factory workers on tape? You know what I mean? I was like, yes. I mean, like, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
eventually, I just started saying no and continued to just do my own thing. And it was slowly built and built and built to the point where I was like, okay, here we go. I'm making a full living. I can stop saying
Yep.
yes to everything.
Yes. So then you can be a little more,
Yeah.
discretionary. I want to pivot just a little bit, Katie, and we can get back into that. But for actors or people interested in entertainment models and stuff, what are things you look for in actors? Like, what makes an actor stand out to you? What keeps them on your radar?
I know this sounds like so cliche and common, but it's really about people that feel very comfortable being themselves. They're really just kind of authentic in their own skin. There's a lot of people that you meet that are really on, if that makes sense, that are like, hi, nice to meet you. And they say things that they think you want to hear instead of just kind of being themselves. And that doesn't mean you like let it all hang out, but it just means that like you don't hide who you are, and you bring something a little different to the table with your conversation with the person that you are, what you're interested in, just the way you speak. You know what I mean? I feel so much kind of more comfortable with those people that are comfortable with themselves, because it makes it such a kind of easier playing field where you're kind of like, hey, this is the character and this is how I want you to be. You know what I mean? Versus somebody that's already on in their real life. You're kind of like, well, I want you to do this. Let's see if that can change.
Let's quiet that.
That character.
Yeah.
Well, you want them to like, like you said, it makes sense, but like talk to them person to person versus like I'm talking to kind of this like facade or fake person. I'd rather talk to you and get to know you, and then let's click it into the acting mode or whatever. But like if I'm not getting authentic you, then it can feel a little.
Yeah. And I think it's also really great when people are very prepared and knowledgeable about what they're walking into. It really makes you feel like, wow, they're taking this seriously.
Yeah.
This is a business to them. Like this,
I think you're totally right. And I think it's interesting because, a lot of people, let's say they want to do TV and film. And if they don't take commercials or print seriously, which they should, that's one of the things I see. There's like sometimes like a bit of like, not that it's laziness, but looseness. And sometimes people forget that and they'll show up for a commercial and they're like, okay, what are my lines? And they just like, you're getting them. And I always tell like students and stuff, treat it seriously, because like on the casting side, on the director side, on the producer, like that's their jobs.
Yeah.
They're treating it seriously. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean you can't be loose, but we still want you, like you're saying, we still want you to be obviously prepared, but we want you to treat it seriously. And that's something I've mentioned before, Katie, but like when I really started treating session directing seriously, being in the room, that's when I started to work as an actor, but also as a session director. So they both kind of went hand in hand, So I think it is important to remember that, because a lot of people want to have fun. They're like, oh, we're here to have fun. We're going to play, which is part of it, but it doesn't mean it's a Vegas weekend.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there something, Katie, like specific that you want to see when they walk into the room, whether it's like a model for a print job or for a commercial? Like, is there anything like they didn't do in their little mini rehearsal, or is there something that you realize, oh, they are professional? Like, what is something that you're like honed in on?
Well, honestly, it goes really back to that same answer, which is like they paid attention to, what I said.
Listened.
They dressed exactly how I said. They didn't wear a lot of makeup, like I said. They have their hair down, like I said. Like they look like their pictures. You know what I mean? Yep. They're prepared. They're professional. They come in and they do their job and they leave.
Yep.
You know
and interesting, Katie, when you said that, for some reason, like the tone, it reminded me. I also feel like I'm thinking about this, like when I'm in a serious mode, sometimes if I'm like, or I'm thinking, Katie, even for you, of like, hey, let's put your hair in a bun or whatever. It's not a criticism that your hair is down. And sometimes you see actors crumble when we're trying to help them, if that makes sense, Corbin. So I think that's another thing of like the confidence to know, no, we are excited. We're happy. If we're being direct, we're not angry or mad. We're just saying, hey, we right, Katie,
just
we're trying to help you.
You get to pick. I'm just relaying the information usually.
Yes.
Like, they want you to look this way. I'm going to say that in the breakdown.
Yes. And then when we see you, like, oh, it looks different. We're going to help try to get you there. But I think sometimes then that can put actors in their head of like, oh, I'm wearing the wrong thing or this or whatever. I took out the earrings. I was like, well, don't worry about that. Then now you're there, let that go and then be right here. And then let's move forward. You know what I mean, Katie? And I think sometimes you can see if that throws someone's energy off versus whether they're willing to roll with it. It's like, great.
Yeah, you should take it as an attempt to elevate instead of a deceleration. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of being like, oh, that's me being wrong. It's like, oh my God, this person's helping me be even better.
Yeah.
You know, like they're giving me a better opportunity because I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to wear earrings. I didn't realize, you know, like, thank you. Let's do this. Like, wow, that helped, you know?
Yeah. And I've had some times where they're like, well, on the storyboards outside, it's this. And I'm like, I know, but I'm giving you the most recent information, which is from the casting director, which is from the director. That storyboard's from a week ago. I mean, yes, like take that in, look at it.
Let me tell you how to do your job. Yeah.
So,
well, and it isn't
changes sometimes, you know,
what's that?
The storyboard is, it will change.
Yes.
You know, they'll change the ethnicity, they'll change the age, they'll change that. They didn't realize that it looked weird when they did that in the storyboard, and we changed it. Like John is literally like the only one that knows the recent information, you know, the session director.
What's been updated. And I think a lot of times with print and commercial, it is very much more specific because you're dealing with kind of a shorter chunk in time. So we can be specific. And so I think that's another thing too. I would say a big, you know, Corbin, with that question is like, be a specific actor. Don't be general. You know, I'm going to just kind of dress kind of general. I'm going to like kind of make general stuff. It's like, well, no, you know, be specific with,
make a choice,
you know, make a choice, be in that world, you know, and then kind of, you know, let us adjust you. But I think specificity is a really great thing for an actor to kind of seek out and search out, and think about your favorite actors. A lot of them are so specific, you know, in the role they're playing, in the part they're playing, in the way they use their words. Right.
So when you're in the room, like, and you're getting these most up-to-date information, like, how does that get to you? Like, does that maybe clear up, like, maybe actors are like confused because they see the storyboard.
Homing pigeons. Sometimes a pigeon flies in, it's on the leg. And we send it back. Yeah.
Is it like a text? Like, is it just like somebody, like the director's just straight up just like, this is different now, go. And like, it's that quick?
They text me. Director just told me, you know, this is not working. Can you change that line? Can you change that direction?
Gotcha.
When we're doing our session tomorrow that you've totally already scheduled and sent out already, can you make it a boy instead of a girl?
And can you make them groups now? They were individual, or can we make them individual? Yeah, it is constantly changing, Corbin. That's a great question. And I think that's, you know, a big part of Katie's job is like, yeah, we can make that work. Even if in her head, she's like, this is going to be a shit show. But that's part of it. That is part of it. Cause once the momentum gets going, my son's word, once Quill's word of momentum gets going, it's like, you kind of can't stop that train. It's going to keep kind of rolling, you know?
Yeah, no, you have to like be prepared to micromanage at all times.
Yeah.
Do you ever say no? Do you ever like, is there ever a moment where you're like,
can't? No, there is. They're like, you know what? I can't do that. It's 6 o'clock. Like, we can't make that change, but I'm happy to do another session the next day. John, are you available?
Exactly.
You know?
And, you know, I think, Katie, that's a great point. And Corbin, another great question, which is this idea of saying no and kind of knowing where your line is, which changes as you get more experience. And I think that's fine. But I think you got to figure that out kind of for yourself. But you have to be able to, because there are people, or there are situations where that line can keep getting pushed if you don't kind of dig in your heels, you know? And I think people need to kind of hear that every once in a while. They need to hear no, that they can't have the whole world, you know, for peanuts, right? That's my new podcast, The Whole World for Peanuts. Wait, so Katie, a couple more like brass tacks things. Do you like this? This is a question I like asking casting directors. Do you like a thank you note? Like if someone books, do you like a little thank you gift? Do you like it after a callback? Like, because actors always want to know, how do I stay in touch? And it's very challenging, especially now. And, you know, I'm just curious your thought on, you know,
like, honestly, for me, the greatest thing is like a simple thank you email with a photo of you on set. Like, that's my favorite.
Gotcha. I love that.
You and, like you with the director, you in the, whatever, in the chair, you know what I mean? Like just something that says like the shoot was awesome. I had the most amazing time because of ABCD. The director is EFGHIJK, whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Thank you. And that's it. Like that to me means more than anything. I don't need gifts. Save your money. You know what I mean? Really, honestly, that's worth more than anything. And that will definitely gets, me to remember. You know what I mean?
What about
we never get to go to set. We're the one that like
true, you're
the
right.
meal and sends it to the banquet and
Right.
have a great time at the party.
I love making it.
And also, like, it's so cool to get the party picture. Like, that's so,
Yeah.
fun for us. Every
That's
casting
great.
director loves that.
That's great. I hadn't thought of that. I think that's great. And what about on social media, Katie? Are you a fan of someone, following and commenting or, sending you?
Sure. I can't say that I really notice a whole lot on there unless it's something pretty significant. Like, here's an example. I recently was casting underwater models. That's a very specific thing. You have to be able to hold your breath for a really long time and look graceful and beautiful underwater without looking like you're going to drown.
Yeah.
And there are girls that are professionals, like legit professionals. They work as mermaids at aquariums. They get flown all over the world for these underwater shoots.
You've just given Corbin a new career path, Katie.
Excited.
Like a really specific
cool.
thing.
Cool. Yeah.
And I found people on social media. Like I put it out there and I engaged with people and they had full Instagram accounts full of underwater model. Like I was like, here we go. Great. I will never forget them. And I coincidentally 2 months later had another one. And I went back and I called them all back in. And none of them had agents.
Yes.
Because like stunt people, they just are known. They have their own reputations. People call them direct. They don't need anything.
That's so specific. Yeah.
It's so specific. And the fact, and I think that's another thing, Katie, that mind of yours or that memory, I was just thinking at the beginning of the pandemic, I did like 15-minute consultations with actors all across the country. And I just got a call from a director for a film that needed someone specific. And I just sent her someone that I'd met with for 15 minutes because I was like, I think she'd be right for this part. And so I don't know what's going to happen with it, but that was 2 years ago, but for some reason that woman stuck in my brain and I had to do a little research and I found her. And I met with like 400 actors. So the point is, Katie, I think sometimes actors also not that they forget, but we're trying in the casting side, we're trying to keep you in mind if you're great
totally.
or right.
No, we want to know, we want to hear it. If we're throwing it out there and you're that, jump, jump in front and say, hi, I'm that. And there are also times where people have been like, hey, I know a cowboy unicyclist with one arm, one leg, and an eye patch that you're looking for, whatever it is. Sometimes it's really specific like that, where you're looking for a unicorn. Yep. It's not even something, there are times, John, where we're looking for we need people on this medication.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, how do I?
Yeah. How do you do that?
Yeah. But Katie, that made me think also, I really like that. If you're the person who's like, hey, I know 2 people like that, that's really helpful to Katie. And Katie's like, oh, that's awesome. And that's another relationship. You're actually helping someone, right? I think that's a really, it's just, that's a really great part of it. I wanted to ask also, Corbin, did you have a wardrobe question? I think this is kind of a fun.
I did. Yeah. You were talking about wardrobe earlier and I was curious with, how specific do you want them to come in? Depending if it's a model for a chef, or let's say, should they dress up in a way that's fully in the chef outfit, or do you want to have a little bit of imagination?
I mean, to be honest, I've seen people kill the audition because they were that prepared. Where people walk in with just a suggestion, you know what I mean? Not super suspect. I'm wearing a white button-down shirt, right? That's good enough.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then the guy comes with the full
hat. Yeah.
and he's in the kitchen with the props. And the full, embracing it like a professional, you're like, well, duh, it's him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've watched that happen so many times. There was this time that it just sealed the deal for me so hard, where they were looking for little girls that looked like they were from Scandinavia or something like that. And I even had a layout of like a little girl in a very traditional Scandinavian dress with braids, blonde. So they were like, we want little blonde girls, call in, 50 little blonde girls. So I did, I called in 50 little blonde girls. And they all did the best they could, little overall dresses. And there was one Pinterest mom in that group that she glue gunned the outfit in the picture,
Nice.
literally. And she looked like the layout. The little girl looked just like all the other little cute little girls. I mean, you look at castings like that, it's like a pile of puppies. Like,
it's a pile of puppies.
You know what I mean? It's like they're all gorgeous, amazing, and totally nailed their auditions.
Yeah.
This little girl's mom was a professional, and she booked it. I mean, they looked at the picture, they looked at this whole pile of pictures, and they were like, duh.
Obviously that one, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, it's interesting, especially like where with this idea, I always say if they can pluck you from the audition right on set, there's no kind of mystery in that transition. So if they see this person looks like that little girl, we can pluck her right there. There's not a 5% chance things could fall apart, or when we put her in the dress, it's like we go right from here, right from the self-tape or in the room to set. It's like one less headache. And so, Katie, when you say that, I think that totally makes sense, because it's the less and I think it changes for TV and film, and there's different kind of levels of it, but especially for like print and commercials, it's like if they can pluck you right there, and they don't have to, they can see, you're a hockey player, man, you've got the bag that stinks to prove it, and the outfit, and you've got footage of you skating, then they don't have to like say, okay, when you get there and they can't skate. I mean, Katie, I'm thinking of, I've told this story. I worked with Mimi Webb Miller a long time ago, and we had callbacks on it was someone on a horse with like looking at a cell phone. And at the callback, I remember they got a draft horse for some reason. It was the only type of horse they could get, which have the wide backs, and there was no saddle. So you had to be a pretty good horse rider in general. And most people kind of had fudged, I think, how good of a horse rider they were in the first place. So people showed up at the callback. I'll never forget. They looked at the horse, no saddle, just wide back, and like so many people just left. And then there was a couple people, and the horse wasn't very rideable in the first place. But like that was a tough one to find. And so the point is like if you kind of fudged your horse riding credentials, you weren't going to do it. So the point is, when they can see you can ride a horse, you've got footage, you can skateboard, you can do that thing. I mean, as you know, with real people, it's like they can find people that can do that stuff. Then it's kind of like the proof is in the pudding. So if you've got the outfit that looks like it, great.
No, I mean, I also recommend that if you know how to do a really specific skill like that, you should have recent footage of yourself doing it on hand at all times, whether that's horseback riding, soccer, basketball, gymnastics, yoga, whatever it is, singing, and you're with a choir, whatever it is, especially if it's something like skiing or snowboarding or water skiing, where it's really, really hard to just go out and do when you get the casting request.
Yeah.
Come to the lake with me. I'll show you.
Like, can you try to send it as self-tape tomorrow?
Yeah.
Sure, let me just drive to the mountains.
Yeah, but you're right, Katie. And how nice to have that footage, because if it's something you do, it's probably something you enjoy. And, I think about some of my favorite, I did a commercial where I was a basketball coach. I love basketball. I got to improv, and I was coaching a kids team. It was like a combination of like all of my favorite things. I was like, I would love to do this every day. But the point is, Katie, it's like, if you love snowboarding, get some cool footage of you snowboarding. And then you've got that when the job comes up, and you're like, boom, here you go. It's a small file, it's a big, whatever they need. And then, because Katie, how often do they sometimes ask? I mean, you've reached out to me where they're like, John, I need this and this, like, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I need it by tomorrow morning. Like, and things like that happen. And then you have something to like show the higher ups. Right.
Exactly.
What if I like board games and do you want me to film me playing a board game? No, you don't want that. You don't want that.
No. That's really skill specific.
Tell them
it takes a lot. It takes a lot of skill, Katie.
As a nerd myself, I could say, Corbin, nerds not allowed. As a fellow nerd. Wait, so I want to ask, but get that footage. I do want to see it so I can make fun of it. Katie, how do you feel about the shift in casting with like kind of diversity and inclusion? I'm just curious your thoughts on how that's kind of changed,
happily it's been shifting more and more. there definitely, I did see a progression in inclusion, which has been amazing to witness, to be honest. And I feel like also advertising is one of the very first places that you see them pushing different diverse categories. Right now, it's really about ability inclusion, which is about time. Um, and, I do notice that there is definitely more of a propensity towards ambiguous talent casting, which I'm sure you've seen, John. And I think one of the reasons for that is just because they can use it in more markets. They're able to use it in lots more different countries.
Yep.
And things like that. But I really, really appreciate and enjoy watching, the different, inclusive categories that have kind of started to.
I think it's great. And I worked on a show last week, Katie, and the director was female. The writer was female and of color. And I just thought, how cool is this? I think it's a really neat, that you're seeing more of that behind the camera and in front of the camera.
Yeah.
I think it's a really
There's
great
also
change.
there's been a lot more diversity and inclusion as far as subject matters and stuff like that as well, which I think has been an interesting, kind of topic. For example, I just finished working on a huge documentary film that's been worked on over the course of the last year, that MSNBC has been producing specifically about menstruation.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not something that's been another topic that you've seen, award-winning films. There was, the short of the year, the one last year was about menstruation, products in a third world country, and all the women, building businesses around themselves and empowering women, things like that. So I've seen a lot more of that, because that's not a subject matter that you would hear people talking about 10 years ago, even.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's been, and again, subject matter is about inclusion, people with, autism spectrum disorder, in mainstream positions and teaching and in authoritative positions of power and things like that. So I think that's been a really neat progression as well.
Yeah.
That's great.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about is, I did some research. That's right, Corbin. I did some research.
Just a little.
And I know, Katie. I know. It's not like me. On an interview you did, you mentioned the Biz Parents Foundation, which I don't know that much about, but
Yes.
can you just tell me like a little bit about that, and also like for
Sure.
parents that are interested in getting their kids in entertainment, how you approach that? Because I think that's a
Sure.
great topic. Yeah.
This Parents Foundation is a nonprofit organization that is specifically designed to empower and educate parents of children that want to pursue careers in entertainment. And they have a really fantastic website that is searchable, that has hundreds and hundreds of pages all about how to get an agent, what a work permit is, what the Coogan laws are, what the Child Performer Protection Act is, what the Scam Prevention Act is. Like, it's all in one place for parents to read and educate themselves and empower themselves, so they know how to not only protect their child, but also how to promote them. Where are the best, safest places to pursue education and representation and things like that.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend them as a resource, also because they're a nonprofit, and their whole purpose is to protect and empower parents, and I highly recommend them. They're a great organization. The two owners are former stage moms.
Great. I think that's great. I want to do a little more research on it. I think that was awesome. Quill did a commercial with Annie and I last year, and we had set up a Coogan account. And for those that don't know, it's where a percentage is taken from a child's salary for them to get when they're 18. Now, what I didn't realize, I think it's awesome, that's great, is the percentage is pretty low, I think, Katie, in my opinion. Like, I was like, oh, it's probably a 50-50 split. It's only 15%, which to me feels a little low. I've been thinking a little more about trying to advocate for that to go up. Because I don't know. I mean, I know the parents are driving around. I know they're doing that stuff. So I get it. But 15%, I don't know. That just, doesn't that number strike you as a little low, or no?
Technically all the money is theirs. They should be putting the rest of that money into a bank account for their kids.
Agreed.
You shouldn't be giving that money to the parents for driving around and like, it's the cost of doing business. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yes.
you shouldn't be, charging for that stuff unless you're a child actor making over $250,000 a year. If you're making over 250,000 a year, yeah, you can ask for a payback from mom for your gas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you bought the Tesla. You bought the Tesla for your mom at that point.
Yeah.
But what's a good number then, Katie? Because I feel like 50% is way too low. So
Yeah,
so you're saying 100%. You're saying 100%?
Well, 100% of their money is theirs, period.
Yeah.
15% is to protect in case the parents don't respect that.
Right.
And it is honestly, when it's designed, that law is designed for children that are making millions of dollars. You know what I mean? It's named after Jackie Coogan, who was a child actor, with Charlie Chaplin. And back then he made millions of dollars. And by the time he was 18, he had not a penny. And he became Uncle Fester in the Addams Family.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's history I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, it's really just to protect those kids from turning 18 and having nothing. If they've made millions and millions of dollars over their career, by the time they're 18, they at least have a couple mil. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Oh man, if I had a couple mil at 18, I'd be dead. But I know what you're saying, Katie. That money. I mean, that's what we've done with Quills. The 15's gone to the Coogan and the other stuff. But I'm still advocating. I think that should be higher. But I hear what you're saying. I think
money though, it locks up all their money completely. You know
yes,
what I mean?
Does.
Especially if they're like 7. You know what I mean?
It does.
So it's like, I think 15 is good. I would love it if it was something more like 25. You know what I mean? That would probably be a better number.
Yeah.
But
is this why you have that new PlayStation, John? You just
yeah, Quill's been working. And I make him work. No, he actually only, this is our rules. Like he only will do a job if like Annie or I are on it. So like if he we don't want to, they asked if he wants to do auditions and we're like, no, but if we have something where they want, hey, we know you have a son, do you want to audition? So we're always on set with him is kind of where we're at right now.
That's smart.
Yeah, so that's been kind of nice. And he really hasn't shown a lot of interest in it, in the sense that, it could be a day where he's like, I don't want to do anything, or a day where he's like, oh, this seems fun. So we're just kind of letting it kind of be what it is, but he'll probably be the most successful of the three of us. Yeah. All right, Katie, I want to get to our favorite segment, which we save for last, which is your best bad acting. All right, we're gonna go. So for this, Katie, Corbin's gonna send you a quote in the chat. And what's fun about it is, I don't know if you know what it's from, but you get to put your own spin on it and have fun just doing bad acting with the line. All right. So it's like we're doing a take.
I don't know this quote. What is this from?
It's from Finding Nemo. It's Dory.
So you can do your best fish impression. You don't have to. You can do an accent. You can do it as you just have some fun with it. We might give you a fun redirect. It's just for fun. There's nothing more to it. So take a look at the quote, and then whenever you're ready, you can deliver it.
I shall call him Squishy, and he shall be mine, and he shall be my Squishy.
I love it.
Oh my gosh. She almost was doing sign language if you're watching. Like she had the hand gestures. I love it.
Actors that overly gesticulate.
Totally.
It doesn't make sense.
I got to redirect Katie to start. I want you to do it as a 6-year-old Katie with where the voice would be and everything.
Okay. Yeah. I shall call him Squishy, and he shall be mine, and he shall be my Squishy.
Love it so much.
Oh, 6-year-old Katie.
Oh,
that
God.
That was good.
Yeah.
We should have done the whole interview in that voice, Katie.
The whole time.
So good. That's so good. Oh my gosh. Well, I think we should end on that. I think that was so good. Katie Taylor, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
this was lovely. I was so excited that you said yes, we're here. I've known you for a long time, and it was like, oh, Katie's going to be a wonderful guest, which you were. For any actors that get to go in for her or self-tape, just know that Katie's fighting for you. She fights for the actors and models out there. She really does. The big heart and a lot of energy, which is wonderful. So, thank you for being, an advocate for diversity, inclusion, actors, people out there. I appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you, Katie. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Thanks for being on.
Awesome. All right. Bye, Katie. Thanks. Thank you for listening to another fabulous, wonderful episode of the Moving Spotlight podcast. Yeah, Katie Taylor, she is one of my favorite people. So, what I'm going to ask today, folks, is that you give us a review on Apple Podcasts. We need more reviews. Yeah, I mean, we are asking here. We are asking very directly. It's a direct ask, right, Corbin?
Yeah, we're forcing you to do it.
Wow, Corbin's gonna go to a force. I like it. And if you give us a review, we'll send you a box of Girl Scout cookies. Can we do that, Corbin?
We can. We will do that.
Jeez, I was hoping you'd say no. We're not going to send you a Girl Scout cookies.
Are you not funding it? I thought you were going to fund
it.
No,
you were supposed to say no, and then I'd be like, I tried.
All right, let me try that again. Let's do that.
And if you give us a review, we will send you a box of Girl Scout cookies.
Yes, we will.
No, Corbin.
I get confused.
Okay, here's the thing. Corbin's useless. I got to do it all myself. I will not be sending you a box of Girl Scout cookies, but please give us a review, okay?
Do it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the
Moving Spotlight podcast.